All right, guys, welcome back to Beautiful Mind. We're going to take a look at this weekly update for July. Was supposed to be for the 8th and 9th, but it's the 11th today, and putting it out there. We were talking in our last week that we were at a divergence point here and that we could possibly have a dead cat bounce up to the 8th in my last tutorial, and I said somewhere around 22 to 23,000 would be a target. We'd probably drift off, and it could persist to around the 12th and whatnot, and possibly into this week we have some events happening. We have a full moon, so there's a lot of push and pull. So are we going to have a bottom here? That's possible, and then we could retest this red line here, which is a very good possibility. However, if we get into this band here where we're bouncing off of this and whatnot, we could continue into the August area, and it may validate that we bounce around and we just come up inside all of this for a while, and we could do that. We could certainly have all this dead cat bouncing to maybe 27, but it's possible. 25,000, it's possible. Are we going to do that? Not necessarily, but it is a possible scenario. So we have to be aware of that. As a trader, we have to look for all these areas of resistance using our tools and our Fibonacci levels. We're going to talk about all this stuff in our continuous tutorials. So my last tutorial I gave you at the beginning of July, the July and an August forecast. We're going to track those on our weekly updates here. So if we don't validate this and continue making this, then we're going to have a pullback, as I was talking, as possible. The 27th, I was saying, is sort of a key period. Will that be the case? Well, not necessarily. I mean, we could certainly see, a continuation of this pattern. And this pattern, let's just say the 27th, we're saying, when I was discussing last week, that's a possibility to keep watching this. And I've talked about this in my previous tutorials for the last few months, that I'm talking about this July period. And, it could certainly go into August. I have a prognosis for August. I've already told you that I have a later August target as well. There's some confluence points there, and I'll show you those more. We were talking about those in the Bitcoin Square of 9 tutorial. You should look at that for resistance and support levels and whatnot, and get yourself acquainted with WD Gann. He's taught me a lot about how to forecast the price of assets and to watch for time dates, which is, he always said, time is more important than price. And that always tends to be the case when we look at these forecasts. So let's carry on here. Let's go see what our indicators are saying, because first of all, for us to be buyers and sellers of anything, we need to look at this. We need to say, hey, what's our indicator saying in the far out? Well, let's zoom right out to the macro view and let's get the big picture, because I think that's really important when we take into consideration what we're talking about here and the dynamics of it. So we're going to try and keep these tutorials down to about 5 to 10 minutes, and possibly a little bit less, but we'll see what we can do here. So let's just bring this into perspective here. So we've been talking a lot over the last couple of months about these levels that we can come down to, and we have this ring is crossing over here, and we have stayed within this ring. Now I've put this ring a little higher than it has been before. My last few tutorials, this outer ring has been down here. I've added it up higher because our prognosis for $1 million Bitcoin in 2030, the Google, you can check Google. Google has stated that Bitcoin will be between 1 million and 15 million. You can go check. I'd like for you to go check. I'm the kind of guy that does that kind of stuff. So that's what they're saying. So when Google is talking about $1 million Bitcoin for you people, moving forward here in 2030, well, $1 million is right around here and 15 million is right here. So these levels are perfectly in line right here. If you look in this, so I think that our trajectory is that we can come wick down here and sit around these levels, and then we just sort of meander back up. We might even have to set in another red trajectory, because I'm thinking it's possible we could wick down as low as this 4,700 here, 93%, which is we've seen in the past. This has happened before. We've talked about these in these previous tutorials, guys. Let's be real about this. Go check those out, tear them to pieces, have a look at them. So these are our future dates for where we're talking. Possible bottom is coming in our 15, and we could have a 16th month. We could have August. We could have August 22. I mean, we can go an extra month, no problem. And from our second top here, we're 8 months and 9 months, and back in some further places, we've had 8 and 9 months here where we've had bottoms that are 71%. So we're going to just take into account that we've had a current 72%, and it's been a little more. It's been about 74% or very close to there on this 17,500. So keep that in mind, that we're currently bouncing off of that. And take a look at that Bitcoin Square of 9 tutorial that we're identifying these points. Is at the bottom? Probably not necessarily. I think we're going to be retesting a lot of these areas. We need to really get people confident in buying Bitcoin. And right now, let's face it, a lot of people are, they just want to be able to afford a place to live and something to eat. So keeping that in mind, a lot of people aren't going to be buying Bitcoin, so it needs to come down to a fair price value. So, looks like we may achieve that. Now, looking at our indicators, and I can hear all you veterans that have been listening to this channel. I just want to beat this to death. That's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to chew it to pieces. Lower tops, death crosses, okay, looks like maybe the buyers, they're getting, maybe they're getting ready to come in, but we'll see. Again, lower tops, death crosses, down below our median lines, RSI, relative strength, lower tops. Look at this, we're just starting to crest below this level. We haven't seen these levels for a long time, folks. Like 2012 and 2015, and the last bear market too in 19 here, and this one here in 20. So we haven't seen these levels for a long time, and they need to stay in here for a while. We've talked about this. They need to kind of hang around here, and we can certainly see some bottoming in this area. Are we going to achieve these areas? It's possible. Anything is possible. So that's what our monthly is saying. I know you guys are all thinking the same thing here. It's still not down long enough, and that it needs to sit around here, and we need to have some golden crosses and maybe get a little few fake outs and chew up some time there. And that's really what's going to have to happen. So weekly, we're just going to zoom a bit more in. Are we going to continue to see, maybe a pullback to this 4,000 level down in August? we've been talking about these levels that we could certainly achieve to see, and we were talking about them in our monthly about how December is one of our areas for a bottom here. So it's likely that somewhere in these areas, November, December, we're going to have a pullback. Is October going to represent maybe a top? Maybe we might have a divergence and we might have a top here. Maybe we might just bounce down and come up. We might just achieve an 8,000 level, and everyone thinks that Bitcoin's a buy of a lifetime and could be the time to buy, right? So could have another fake out, come back up. We could rest again in our 20 level and retest that 1920 level. Everybody gets a hopium, and then goes to about October, and then we step back down into our cycle, which is the bear market. It's bad news bears for 20 and 27 months from these tops, unfortunately, and that's going to consume all the way out, as we were talking in our tutorials here in the monthly, that they've consumed a lot of time, and we've talked about these dates and whatnot in here, and we're just going to revisit that again, just to kind of keep all this stuff fresh. We've seen all this before. These we got December here coming up, and that's a 20 month period, and then we have July of the next year. That's our 27-month period, and we've seen this in the past, folks. I've showed you in our tutorials many times. We've seen 20 and 27 months. Where it's just we have these killer fake outs, and then we have this these massive bottoms, that we had 2 years ago when we had a bunch of problems go on. So are we going to experience that again? Well, history has told us in the past tutorials that I've showed you, going back to 2012, if we go all the way back and look at my previous tutorials, we have discussed that we've gone to these levels. We've seen these time counts repeat. This has been a reoccurring phenomena. We've seen this all repeat. All these numbers have repeated and continuously repeated, and we're doing that right now. So I'm saying to watch out. I was saying watch out around the end of July, that we could have a bottom, and then a good, maybe a fake out. And that's what we were talking about in the last tutorial. So from our second top, we're down 51% in 2 months. And after currently, as of the June 18th bottom, we're 74%. So, these levels are, we've achieved these. We were talking about these for a long time. I've had this forecast out for many, many, many months in my books and stuff. And I've just created these tutorials. I felt that, you need to know this stuff here. We all need to know this. All right, so moving forward, what are we going to see over the next week here? Well, let's maybe go take a look at that, and we'll zoom in a little bit on that one. We might add our next ring, but let's make this a little more comfortable on the eyes. So we're talking about weekly chart here. We've had some pullbacks into our things here. So I'm just going to remove these for now, just so we can get a little look. Are we going to continue on in this upwardy channel here? It's hard to tell, when we don't have tools where things may go, and if we don't have our resistance lines and our overhead lines. And you can see there's a lot of divergence at the crossing of this line. And if you look here, look at the crossing of this line, look directly up, and we have another bottom directly on a line here. So pay attention to the way I have my charts and lines set up. I think you should try to achieve a lot of the same things. I'd like for you to do that, and really help with your understanding of that. So So we're kind of forming a little bit of this divergent bottom here, and we've seen this here. It started to do this, and then we had this fake out again, and we just moved back down lower, and we made a bottom here, right? Basically, right where you started at square one there after a big pullback, and just sat around this area. So that certainly can happen. This is exactly what I am anticipating we are going to experience, and we're just going to continue to experience, moves back to areas that I think are more cost effective for the folks of today to buy a Bitcoin. At 10,000, they're going to start thinking about buying a Bitcoin because people are going to get wild about that. And certainly by next year, when the Great Reset is going to happen, I think $4,000 to $5,000 Bitcoin will certainly entice quite a number of people to invest into a Bitcoin. So this is all subject to, of course, the data following the forecasts that we have set about based on the past. So we're going to just watch all of that. So let's just see what our friendly indicators are saying to us now on the weekly basis. So we've had confirmation here of a golden cross here, and the buyers have stepped in on the weekly chart. And so we're starting to maybe see a couple of fake outs. Here's a fake out right here. That's a classic fake out on this death cross here, where we just crossed over with a golden cross and it got smoked. Right? So you got to watch out for this. So let's take a look. So I can hear all you people. You're already talking about all this stuff now in the background, watching this channel. You know what exactly I'm saying now. It's just lower tops. We've got, you know, we've got a small golden cross here. It's a weekly indicator that it's starting to look a little strong. We could have a tremendous pop up to a 24, 25,000 level. It's certainly possible. Bitcoin is an extremely volatile asset. All right, let's go look at the RSI. RSI's come down. It looks like it's created a bottom here. We're just going to move it over so that we can see it a little better here. All right, so it's bottomed. It's started to move up a little bit on the weekly, so we're paying attention. It doesn't mean we're in a bull market by any means. We know what a bull market looks like on the monthly chart. So let's go have a look at the daily, and let's just see what the daily is saying to us now, because it's kind of an interesting look. So while we're here, let's just talk about our indicators first, because our indicators are really powerful tools. They can certainly save a guy when he's doing stuff. All right, so we've had this terrific death cross right here. Two of them. I can just hear you guys right now. Look at that. Oh yeah, it's looking like we're gonna have a little pullback here, and sellers have stepped in a little bit here, and they're still a little bit nervous. So possibly they're gonna pull back to somewhere in here. Well, it's possible. Let's just take a look at maybe a possibility that we're talking about here. Let's just hold off on that one for a second. Well, we were talking about this in the last tutorial here. So we had a divergence point right here. In the last tutorial, we talked about that, and I said we could have a dead cat bounce up to 22, 23. Go double check and look at my tutorials, and I talk about all this stuff. So forecasting forward here, we were talking about possibly, we're going to get a lower bottom here. It's certainly indicating it by the critical indicators here that we have, our MACD and our stochastic and our relative strength indicator. So really important that we pay attention. So if we don't stay above this level here, we're going to retest these two levels here. And should we do that, then, there's a lot of there's going to be, it'll be a big bang if we go below. Whew, we're going to be down to some lower levels, and it could happen relatively fast. I'm calling for possibility that should we cap out here, we could certainly move down, and so we have another divergence point. So we talked about the last one being right here last week, folks. That's what we said. Off this top here, these two indicators have stayed the same, and I'm not going to change it until we have a confirmation that this is, in fact, our next swing top, which I talked about. I said we'd have a top somewhere around the 8th, and it could persist to around the 12th. Now, anything can happen. We could certainly push up again and retest. Now, the forecast is stating for bad news, so it's possible we could have a good little summer rally here and we could chop around and get in between these two divergence lines. So I just wanted to share that with you guys, and I wanted you to see the update, and stay tuned for the following week as we walk through this progress with our forecast laid out. And I'm going to give you a 5-month forecast. You're going to see my books, and I'm going to show you what my forecast is looking like, and you can play along and watch what's going on. All right. Thanks for joining. Thanks for liking. Thanks for subscribing. All my most valuable viewers, thank you. Thank you to all my new viewers. All just share it with your friends. Tear it to pieces, and come back. Thank you very much for joining Beautiful Mind as we speak about Bitcoin in its totality.